Good afternoon. This is Gary McAuliffe. I want to thank you for joining our drop-in demo series today. As it would be, right as I'm getting started, the lawnmowers on the street are off and running, and I apologize if you have any of that background noise, but here we go. So I'm Gary McAuliffe. I lead the sales team here at Pureport, and I've got Johnson Cawthon with me. Johnson is our VP of Solution Engineering, and we'll do the demo portion of today's webinar. We've developed the series as an opportunity to engage with Pureport in a real low pressure way, give you a chance to investigate our platform and see how we enable the interconnection of cloud networks. Today is actually the last of our spring series of topics. So far, we've covered hybrid cloud connectivity. We've covered connecting to AWS Transit Gateway. And last week had a great session on leveraging Terraform for automated cloud connectivity. All of the previous sessions are available for you out on our website. Would highly recommend you go tune in if any of those topics are interesting for you and or your customers. In today's topic, we're going to talk about privately connecting to Google Cloud, leveraging the Google Cloud Interconnect. We'll show you how easily the Pureport Multicloud Fabric enables and allows customers to connect to workloads in GCP. And we'll, as typical in these sessions, we'll spend most of the time today in the demo portion, but I wanted to start with a little bit of background first, and we'll kick it off. So the cloud is all about speed. I had to borrow from the movie. One of the disappointing things of the summer was Top Gun's gotten pushed to Christmas, but in doing so, I had to borrow from their quote. But the idea of speed from a cloud perspective, it really is all about speeding up your business. It's about speeding up the delivery of your applications. It's about speeding up your connections to your customers, your suppliers. It's all about speed. Unfortunately, the development of public clouds has really changed just about all elements of IT in an attempt to speed them up. In the pre-cloud era, it could have taken 4 to 6 to 12 to 20 weeks to get compute and storage resources enabled for a new project. Today, somebody can do that in less than 10 minutes on one of the public cloud providers. For code deployments in the pre-cloud era, sometimes customers would do 2 to 4 code releases a year. And today, companies are actually doing sometimes 20 to 30 code releases a day, which, as you can imagine, has dramatically allowed them to speed up the delivery of new capabilities and new feature sets to their customers. Everything really is sped up from an IT perspective with one exception, and that continues to be network provisioning. It can still take weeks, if not months, to connect users to their cloud resources, other offices, etc. Fortunately, Google has actually dramatically improved the ability to connect to or privately connect to Google resources using their product called Google Cloud Interconnect. If you're not familiar with Cloud Interconnect, think of it as a private backdoor into your resources in the Google Cloud. And, candidly, you will see that speed today. If you've attended any of the other webinars in the series, you'll notice that today's session will probably be the shortest one that we've had to date. There's a reason for that. Google has made Interconnect extremely easy to use and to deploy, and there's just really not that much to show. It's just so easy and so seamless and so quick that we don't need to take 30 or 45 minutes for the webinar. We can show you everything in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes. And I think that speaks generally to Google and some of the headway that they're making in the public cloud space in general. If you've followed over the last year or two, there's been some pretty significant customer wins. Companies like Coca-Cola, Home Depot, Wayfair, Lowe's here in North Carolina. Combine that with some of the industry-leading technology capabilities that they've been able to announce. Things like container technology. Obviously, Google is the creator of Kubernetes, and all of the impacts and capabilities that container technology is making in the IT world today, really leveraging that. But they've also had major innovations in big data, AI, and machine learning. You may be familiar with TensorFlow, another project that's come out of Google and another way that they're delivering web services and cloud services to their customers. We're starting to see lots more customers that are moving resources in one way or other to Google Cloud. we're seeing many of these customers that have even traditionally used other cloud providers that are starting to leverage some of these specific capabilities that I mentioned in the areas of big data, AI, and containers. And as you know, Pureport really is all about making these connections to any cloud provider super easy. We want to help our customers connect to any cloud via any connection method and deliver that all on one common fabric. So if a customer is currently using another cloud provider, or they're just a first-time cloud user and they want to start leveraging Google Cloud, we try to make that super easy. Just a little background on our solution. We call our solution the Multicloud Fabric, and our goal is to seamlessly orchestrate these connections into the cloud providers and leveraging the ability to do that in minutes versus the days, weeks, and months that it traditionally takes. Our solution and platform is completely cloud native and done all at layer 3. So we speak to the clouds and the networking protocol that they are used to, which is BGP. We've built the solution as fully programmable, so customers can write to our solution to enable these connections into the cloud providers. They can write directly. They can leverage major DevOps tools like Ansible and Terraform, as we discussed last week in our Terraform webinar. And all of that is enabled because we've built our software stack on a general purpose compute hardware stack. All of this is located in the key cloud on-ramp locations. You can kind of think of the key cloud hubs throughout the United States. We're not built on big iron, big kind of routing engines. We actually have been built on virtualized routing services, all built and delivered in software containers. So we kind of are analogous to the same way that the cloud providers are building their architecture. You might think of it as very cloud-like. And with speeds ranging anywhere between 50 megabits and all the way up to 10 gigabits per second, our platform can help get customers to the cloud very quickly. And as you'll see in the demo today, this can be spun up in minutes and doesn't require a lot of heavy networking background, doesn't require you to spend time painlessly managing IP addresses or VLANs. It's easy, and most importantly, it's super fast. And I think when the combination of the Pureport Multicloud Fabric with Google's Cloud Interconnect and all of the automation they've built in, you'll see just how easy that is. And to do that, what I want to do is I want to turn it over to Johnson. I'll let Johnson take a quick view of the program, show you our connection, and then what we'll do is we'll wrap up with any questions you may have. And by the way, if you've noticed the console, the GoToWebinar console, you can log your questions there, and we'll be glad to take a few questions at the end of the session. Because we'll have time, because this is going to be so quick. All right, Johnson, I've laid it up for you.
Thanks, Gary. And thanks again to everybody joining today. Before I jump into the live demo, I just want to take a quick minute to walk through what I already have in place and what I'm about to build in the Google and Pureport consoles. So I've started with a Google Cloud environment and a customer premises environment that I want to connect together using Google Cloud Interconnect and Pureport as a connection broker. Now, again, for those of you who have seen some of the other webinars that we've put on, typically I would have built out a whole bunch of stuff on the cloud side, including the routers and all the attachments, and other interconnections that are needed to get the private connectivity all the way back into my VPC. And the reason that I do that is because I don't want dead air while we wait, 10 minutes for an API call to complete. And while most of the steps in all the cloud providers are actually pretty quick, everybody but Google's got at least one step that takes like 10 minutes to complete. And so that's a long time to ask people to sit and wait, while I ramble on about nothing. With Google, though, as Gary mentioned, they have made it super quick. They've streamlined the entire process and made it so fast and easy that I'm actually going to start with just my virtual private cloud on the Google side. I haven't built any routers, haven't built any circuits, haven't built any connections, haven't done anything other than just having that VPC sitting there. The one thing that I will say that's a little bit different than usual, though, is what I have done is actually built out my connection back to customer prem And the reason for this is I've already covered this in numerous of the other drop-in demos that we've done. Obviously, we've got other videos on our website and so forth. And so what that entails is I've got a customer prem location. Candidly, it's my coronavirus home office here, but I've connected to that customer prem location via our Site Connect VPN. And basically, I chose the VPN obviously for three reasons. Number one, I wanted to get something in place immediately for today. Didn't want to wait 30, 60, 90 days for a circuit. Secondly, I can tear it down when I'm done. I'm not locked into a long-term contract as I would be for a circuit. And obviously, most importantly, again, I don't want to pay a carrier to trench out to my house with fiber to complete that build out. So at any rate, the important thing to note is that building out that entire connection using the Site Connect product, and even all the way through configuring my FortiGate firewall and getting BGP peering up really was less than 10 minutes total to get that done. I just didn't want to cover it again since we've done it before in numerous of these sessions. So really where I'll focus today is building out the Google Cloud Interconnect. And what that's going to entail is me creating the interconnect circuits, creating the routers, clicking the order button, clicking the pre-approve button, and then copying and pasting two pairing keys from the Google side over to the Pureport side. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and jump over to my browsers. I'm going to run those in split screen today. So what we've got up on my screen here is the Pureport console on the left, the Google console on the right, and I'll start by jumping into the Pureport network that I built for this session. As I mentioned, I've already got that connection back to my home office. I've got BGP established. It's an HA tunnel, fully redundant. So you can see that I've connected separately to each of those gateways: primary gateway, secondary gateway. We're seeing the BGP route learned from my DMZ here on my home router, or home firewall rather, and as well we can see all the other information that was used to create those two VPN tunnels and so forth. So the next thing I'll need to do is jump over to the Google console. I'm going to click on hybrid connectivity and go to interconnect. I'll click the get started button. As you can see, I don't have anything built out with respect to interconnect. I click partner interconnect. You could use dedicated interconnect, by the way, if you happen to be on net in the same premises where there's a Google on-ramp and you need 100 gig connectivity. Typically that's where the dedicated comes in, is for folks that want to connect to them at 100 gig. Lower than that, they really want you to go through a partner like Pureport. I'll click on have a service provider. We'll create a redundant pair of attachments. Attach that to my demo VPC. We'll choose US East 4, which is there in Northern Virginia. We'll create a new cloud router, give it a name. We'll go ahead and leave it set to advertise all the subnets that are part of my VPC. We'll give the VLAN attachment a name, and by the way, a VLAN attachment really, you can think of that just as the Cloud Interconnect circuit. Again, we'll go with the defaults for the router. Create my second VLAN. Click the create button. This typically takes 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds at the outside for it to generate the pairing keys and get the circuits ready for acceptance. Once that's done, I'll click the pre-activate checkbox there. Well, first I'm going to copy my primary circuit ID to the clipboard. I'm going to pre-activate the circuits. I don't have to do this. I could come back in and activate them after the fact, but it eliminates a step. And we'll click OK. So there are my two circuits, and you can see they're both in a status of waiting for service provider. I'll click Add Connection. And somehow I seem to have selected all the text on the screen. Sorry about that. And we'll choose Google Cloud Interconnect. Again, we'll choose the Pureport DC location that's right there next to US East 4. I'll choose a speed. One of the other really cool things about Google is they let you change that speed dynamically on the fly, up or down, at your whim. So we support that in our console for all of the connection types that allow it. Certainly our Port Connect, which is one of the ways that you can connect to us as a customer if you want to run private line, or if you're in one of the 150 facilities that we have lit, or the Site Connect VPN that I'm using today. We allow up or down for Google Cloud Interconnect as well. I'll paste in that first service key, I'll quickly jump in, grab that second service key, and just go with the default. So I could define customer networks and turn on NAT if I needed to NAT this connection. As I think I've said before, that's a subject for a whole nother drop-in demo or webinar. Maybe we'll get to that topic this summer, along with a few others that we have planned. So going back to the interconnect screen, you can see that we've negotiated IP addresses with Google. The VLAN ID is set. You can see that we're listed as the interconnect partner. It is marked as still waiting for service provider. Typically, this process will take 2 to 3 minutes total. You can see now it's in a status of waiting for BGP configuration to complete. On the Pureport side, we're going to go ahead and provision 2 virtual routers. Again, as Gary mentioned, we're very cloud-like in that this is not a single VRF running on a single piece of big iron. We're deploying individual dedicated virtual routers and a pair of them for every single one of these connections, and joining those in a full mesh. So those guys should be up and online momentarily. And once that's done, the BGP peering process will start. And again, that typically will take usually just a couple more minutes. You can see that primary gateway is provisioning. Secondary gateway is waiting for the first to finish. Once that's done, we should see our VLANs advertised via BGP, and those will be in turn re-advertised down to my connection to my data center. So while we're waiting for that, I'll remind everybody, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box, the chat window within GoToMeeting, and we'll be happy to answer those at the end. So while we're waiting for that process to finish, their BGP came up on the first connection, and typically you'll see that indicator come up on the Pureport console, and the cloud side will usually just be a few seconds behind on refreshing that status. And there you can see the primary is up, secondary is pending. Should be up within just a few moments. If I refresh my routing table, looks like we're still waiting for the announcements to start to come through. But again, while we're waiting for that, one of the beautiful things about our platform, one of the things that we talked about in the last drop-in demo that I was part of, which was 2 weeks ago, was the fact that from here, I've got a connection from my data center into Google. If I wanted to add in another customer prem location into that network, it's as easy as coming in and adding. If I wanted it to be a Site Connect VPN, or if I wanted it to be a Port Connect, if I want to, again, bring private line, or if I'm in one of the Pureport on-net facilities. I could also connect from there to another cloud provider and really add all of those connections to all those customer locations and all those clouds in one big full mesh network, and allow them all to talk directly to one another. So BGP is up on both those gateways, and on the primary gateway facing Google, you can see I've got a route back to my data center. You can see I'm learning the network from my Google VPC. If I jump over to my connection to customer prem, again, you can see that I'm learning that network from customer prem, and also announcing the Google network to that customer prem environment. Just give the Google console one more quick refresh. It's reporting that everything's up. And if I jump into my VPC network, into my routing table on the Google side, and filter only for dynamically learned routes, you can see that the VPC has learned my DMZ network via BGP. So as Gary said, this is definitely the quickest one that we've done so far. So Gary, I'm going to turn it back over to you and see if we've had any questions come in.
Looks like we got one. The question is, what's an example of a Google Cloud service that somebody's leveraging from another cloud provider? You want to take that, or?
Yeah, I think probably either one of us can take this. I think we've both heard multiple examples of that, but let me bring one up that I actually had I was talking to a customer about last week, which was that they specifically had an application that they had built in another cloud. All the customer facing or end user facing components were already deployed, and they wanted to use Google for the business analytics piece of it. I think they were looking at BigQuery, and they had written this all this analytics, this big analytics application inside Google, and they wanted to bring all this data that they were getting from this end user facing application and bringing it as part of that deployment. And it ends up the data was actually stored in S3, right? And so that's public facing, and so they were pulling it out, over the internet, which works fine, but it costs a lot, right? At the end of the day, pulling all that data out over the internet, you pay egress fees, and so what they were able to do was to use Pureport to connect their AWS environment, and particularly using the AWS public peering to get to that S3 bucket, and pull that data out over Direct Connect, and then ingest it into the Google application via Google Cloud Interconnect. At the end of the day, they ended up boosting their performance, but obviously the big game there was the cost savings on the egress. Gary, I don't know if you had another one that you've run into, but
I mean, yeah, we've seen obviously lots of conversations around machine learning, TensorFlow examples, others. My personal take is that kind of the big killer app, if you will, for the multi-cloud era is going to be containerized, Kubernetes applications. I think, because that's going to enable more portability, I do think you'll see a rise in people using different clouds, including Google as part of that, to enable. And some of those are new solutions driven by the like Google's Anthos, or companies like Red Hat with their OpenShift. But generally speaking, I think that's going to be the killer app for a lot of this moves between. So, listen, we appreciate your time. I know, like I said, it was going to be a quick one today because it was pretty easy to kind of spin up quickly to the Google Cloud Interconnect. Reach out if you have an interest in seeing a private demo or any more detail. You can go to our previous recordings on our website, and then stay tuned for some more topics this summer. We do intend on adding a session on Red Hat Ansible and how you can leverage Ansible to connect to the Pureport Multicloud Fabric, and then also topics around this whole concept of Kubernetes. So looking forward to staying in touch. Have a wonderful summer. Everyone stay safe out there, and we'll see you over the coming weeks and months. Thank you.